Hi everyone, this is Zeus for week 4. Doing a little bit of intro into the couple of questions here. One in the Ekman book basically is how can we develop or influence or gain some understanding about what we can be emotional about. In other words, can we intervene in our emotions, or do they simply kind of run us, or or is it just a matter of trying to be aware before we send an angry email and just trying to stop ourselves. Either way, in particular, we can proactively help ourselves understand our emotions, identify them, and go forward. And the other question is, what role does emotion play in our social lives? Most of the research you'll see in today's readings are having to do with how strongly our emotions, especially happy ones, are determined by relationships or involved in relationships. We're social animals, and emotions and relationships are just hand in glove. So let's go ahead and go right to the template for today, and that is, and again, I would encourage anyone to download this. Obviously, if you're not in this class and you're just seeing this video, then take a screenshot, I guess, and use it to organize your work. So, so week 4, how can we change what we become emotional about? This is Ekman, and what role does emotion play in our social lives? That's the academic readings. So those are 2 main questions. I will ask both of them. One is a discussion question, and the other as the question of the week question. So all of you view this video. And I also have a Ask Dr. Zeus Weekend 2 and 3 video that I'm just finishing up, and I will include with this one, which goes along with it. And then access and download the week 4 folder academic readings on what role emotion plays in our social lives. That's on Blackboard Learn. And read and engage chapter 3 of Ekman on how we can identify and change our emotional responses. And finally, there is a video in the week 4 folder. It's called Social Emotions Matter by Dr. Sanfrey, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. So if someone's just seeing this, they could just Google that and look it up. But anyway, here are the basic questions. I won't bore you with a lot of detail, but I do want to explain these to allow you to get a good jump on these. So as to the question, what roles do emotions play? What role does emotion play in our social lives? I guess I should probably have changed that one, right? Can I change that right on the screen here? Let's see if we can do that. Ooh, good. What role does emotion play? Or what roles do emotions play in our social lives? Would be a good one to get a hold of. And I said, oof, I don't want that to be the question of the week question, because I've got this great little thing I would love all of you to do. And again, this is a discussion board one, so I'm still opening it up for you to go ahead and offer your own contributions. If something jumps up tied to the material and you say, I've got to share this with everybody, go ahead and do that. You're not constricted to this, but I'm really kind of excited about this experiment. Here's my experiment. Test the theory offered by Clark and Brissett, that's in your academic readings, page 833, that getting an unexpected gift from someone you were not expecting to receive a gift from creates a greater response, or arousal, that's what they call it, that's the scientific term, than simply getting a gift from someone you do expect. Here's your experiment. Offer something out of the ordinary, of a pleasant nature, of course, to your loved one, partner, child, etc., and share their response and your ideas with the class about why they responded that way. Okay, so we're testing this. This could be a husband insisting on doing the dishes and putting the kids to bed, or an unromantic partner suddenly suggesting a romantic night out. Use your imagination, and again, it's required for class. Don't give it away, though, okay? Just don't give it away. Don't say, oh, I'm doing this for class. That ruins it. So just go ahead and do it and observe, okay? And if they ask you, just say, hey, I just got it in my head. I want to do something crazy and different today. And I just got it in my head I was going to do it. So that'll be your response. Then note how they respond. Are they happy? Are they suspicious? Like, what are you doing? It's like the guy who brings some flowers. It's a cliche in movies. A woman's like, okay, who are you, messing around with, So it'd be interesting to get what their response is, especially if you act so-called out of character. And what does their response say about their emotional profile? How did doing this make you feel? As always, you can choose to answer these questions for your discussion board contribution this week, or you can offer your own compelling questions and observations from real life as related to the material in this class. And again, I suggest you guys just post your stuff here, okay? And that way you have a running total of all your stuff for every week, and you won't have to keep looking up under different weeks and so forth. It'll also help give you a note as you go from week to week that can lead up to your final projects, because you're going to be drawing upon some of these concepts and questions. So I really want to use this as a study guide. So here's the question of the week that has to do with a more extended analysis from your academic readings. What do we change? How do we change what we become emotional about? Well, in this case, it's Ekman. But it's a longer engagement, still another real life engagement. But I've led you through it pretty well, so it shouldn't be that difficult. I said, this is me up here, and you. Pick a particularly strong emotional reaction you have experienced or experience now. A memorable childhood trauma, being humiliated by a teacher in elementary school, for instance. I did that when I was teaching teachers, and amazing the stories they would come up with. I'm just like, oh no, we got some work to do. Or a persistent present emotional challenge for you if you have something around self-esteem. Again, if you had worked with dieting or food issue, whatever it happens to be, something that you're struggling with and you haven't really found the answer to, and you want to kind of get at the root of it, that's fine. Go ahead and pick that out. Or here's a kind of interesting one. It's oftentimes very clear. It seems innocuous, but it can oftentimes be very revealing, and that is an intense pet peeve that really gets you on your high horse. Like you're ready to come out fighting, you see someone littering or doing something else, you just want to go out and throttle them. Try follow that one out and see if that one works. So you can pick any one of these. The things that tend to be deeper and earlier are oftentimes more valuable or more beneficial for you to work out. But for the purposes of the class, you can take any one of these levels that you're comfortable with. Now, all of these are from Ekman's analysis on page 46 and 47. He has these 6 different things that you use to evaluate these emotional responses. The first is, how close is this emotional reaction to the evolved theme? Now, what is an evolved theme? Okay, well, we explain it. What is the main emotion you're experiencing? Okay, that's the first question to ask. It's anger, sadness. For example, what is the unlearned theme? Okay, this is more the evolutionary background. Genetic background, okay? In road rage, for instance, the unlearned theme is being thwarted in some way, that guy cutting you off. It's like a really gut level, almost evolutionary response to saying, this guy's taking up my space, right? It could be being thwarted in that way. It could not feeling never good enough, like if you were put down a lot in your upbringing, that could be the unlearned theme, and you're always striving to try to prove something. Whatever it happens to be, and there's a certain survival in that unlearned theme, like wanting approval and believing that disapproval will kick you out of the family or remove you in some way that you would find socially damaging. So again, these are the core hard underlying issues. That's the unlearned theme. And then finally, what is the learned trigger? What specifically sets you off, right? So in the case of road rage, obviously someone cutting you off sets you off. Even though it's not even really that important. It's not going to do much to you, but it's tapping into that unlearned theme. If it has to do with self-esteem, it may be someone critiquing your paper and just really doing it in a way that was positive and trying to help you along, but you snapped in. It was a trigger that snapped you into your unlearned theme that you're not good enough and made you feel bad. So that would be an example of those 3 questions acting together. How much does the trigger resemble the original event? Try to find the root of this emotional pattern. Were you belittled as a child for trying something new or coloring your trees purple because you like the color? I've heard that one too. It's like the teacher coming in insisting that they had to color the trees green. It's like, I think they can tell that leaves are green. This is a creative process here. So again, you see how social emotional training can begin to constrict or delimit a person's creativity. The similar criticism now set off early memories of being non-normal or disapproved of. You'll find this really evident in stray dogs that you adopt. I think this is a really clear example. They may cower or get aggressive with a bearded man or snap at black boots, as our dog does. And I'm sure it's because they were mistreated by a person that had that image, and it was buried in their brain. And it's amazing. Dogs, even though you've been with them for years, will still oftentimes hold those kinds of neural pathways back in their brains. So there was likely events and people. Okay. There were likely events. I think that should be were. Here, I'm going to go ahead and correct that. There were likely events and people that embedded these reactions in that animal, but also in us. And then number 3, how early did you learn the trigger? The earlier it is learned, the harder it is to weaken. So again, is this a pattern that goes way back to your childhood, way early on? And if so, it is an indication and evidence or a characteristic that makes it harder to change. And finally, 4, was the initial emotional charge strong or weak? Describe the lasting effect it had on you. Okay, these are pretty straightforward questions. They don't require a lot, 1 or 2 sentences. What was the density of your experience? How repeated was the experience? How highly charged was it? Did it happen over a long or short period of time? Obviously, the more repeated, highly charged, and longer the experience, the more ingrained it becomes. And this is notable for cases of child abuse. So what was your affective style? Are you a hair-triggered type A personality or a laid-back type B personality? What effect does this have or has it had? And finally, if you really want and you're driven to really get into this for self-improvement or because you're going to be working with people in your job and trying to help them get through at-risk situations and build new habits, I would really recommend the bonus. And I'll say 10 plus in my comment if you do this. Okay. Ekman talks about working through these. You've identified these different levels. You become aware. You understand the effect on other people. You keep a log of emotions and responses. Share with a trusted friend and identify your hot triggers. Identify the script you are importing. In other words, that little thing from childhood that made you feel not good or angry or whatever it happened to be. And then avoid the situation and learn to give it a more generous appraisal. Don't just react to it and allow that automatic response, involuntary, unconscious response to have the last word. So I said, so you can now see how these facts added up and can strengthen a more reflexive, unaware emotional response in inconvenient areas. Sometimes it can harm, your evaluation at work or your relationship with a beloved one. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and pause and get the other one up. In fact, I can probably just go down here and kick it on right now. Here we are. Oh, not bad. Okay, I just move this over. And we're there, basically. Okay, I did want to read you this. These are the academic readings in the Ekman book. I did want to go ahead and read you this real briefly. I think it's a wonderful summary of the reason for doing what we're doing. This is from, how can we change basically our emotional responses. I'm right up here. Emotions change how we see the world and how we interpret the actions of others. We do not seek to challenge why we are feeling a particular emotion. Instead, we seek to confirm it. This is an important point. We oftentimes feel we are our emotions, and instead of using evidence to disconfirm our emotion, we're using and picking out evidence to confirm it. This is an important point. We evaluate what is happening in a way that is consistent with the emotion we are feeling, thus justifying and maintaining it. And we're basically thinking this is us. If I'm going to last, this emotion needs to last. In many situations, this may help focus our attention and guide our decisions about how to respond to the problems at hand and understand what is at stake. But it can cause problems. For when we are gripped by an emotion, we discount or ignore knowledge we already have that could disconfirm the emotion we are feeling, just as we ignore or discount new information coming to us from our environment that doesn't fit our emotion. In other words, the same mechanism that guides and focuses our attention can distort our ability to deal with both new information and knowledge already stored in our brains. So again, here's the key point here. Until we get on the inside of emotion, rather than just unconsciously linking with it, our tendency is to let the emotion drive us rather than having a conversation with the emotion to see if it benefits us. I don't think we can drive emotions. That's not what I'm suggesting. Some people who are stoics, rigidly and disciplined, they have absolutely, it looks like no feeling at all. That's not a very good life in my mind. But here's the difference. It's not emotions driving us, or we driving emotions and becoming these unemotional automatons, but having a conversation with emotions to see whether a particular emotion is beneficial to ourselves and others. And we do that by looking into the nature of emotions themselves and what effects those emotions have, especially on the social realm. And we find oftentimes the personal results of that. So let me go ahead and swing this on over. Looks like this is the Oatley and Johnson Laird reading, 2011. I have a lot of, I have to honestly admit, I have a lot of problem with functionalist understandings of emotion because it treats human beings more like objects, the black box, okay? Here's what I will say about this without being too prejudiced or biased. It's right up here. The communicative theory postulates that emotions occur in relation to goals. It follows that social emotions relate to social goals. Biologically, again, they're looking for the more genetic, more programmed aspect here. Jenkins and Oatley have argued 3 social goals are foremost: assertion, attachment, and affiliation. Okay. The evolutionary oldest is assertion, again, having to do with status, okay, pride. You know, pride, anger, and shame are associated with that, all right? The other one is, again, attachment, where comfort when you are attached to someone and discomfort or anxiety when you're removed from them happens. And then finally, what they call affiliation, cooperating with peers, fostered by positive moods and trustfulness. So these just seem to be, better or more evolved, or what we call more sophisticated emotions. But what strikes me about all these emotions is they kind of are consumerist. I want something. I want to be happy. I want to trust. I want comfort. I don't want anxiety. I want pride. And again, pride is not exactly necessarily a good emotion. Don't want anger. Don't want shame. Again, it almost treats the emotions as swords and shields, instead of, again, in this more relational way, in which emotions, as has been said up through now, actually help us sense or feel into the environment, gain a deeper, more nuanced understanding of ourselves, sense and feel, using intuition, for instance, into whether or not this relationship is going somewhere. It doesn't always have to be about predict and control, grabbing someone and codependently wrapping your arms around them or pushing them away. It's a lot more nuanced than that. And a lot of these theories don't really go into that nuance because it doesn't fit research paradigms and agenda. They want a very clear answer. They want this one trait. They want to be able to follow it. They want to eliminate everything else. Scientific method is very mentalized, and emotion clearly isn't. And so trying to use a mentalized framework to explore emotion is going to have its limitations. I thought this was a decent example here. It says, on the stage, an actor learns a script, a set of words that the actor will say. The actor's job is to use the words and to portray the emotion to support the relationships with the other actors. What's nice about this, it shows that how strong a role emotion plays in establishing relationships, character, and story in our lives, okay? But then it says ordinary life requires the inverse. Emotions provide scripts not of words, but of ways of relating, in happy cooperation, in angry conflict, in sad disengagement, in fear, and so on. And people supply words appropriate to these modes. The modes supplied by basic emotion are useful in setting frames for interaction. If you're generally an angry person, you probably won't bring around sweet people. So it is like setting the frame for the kinds of interactions and people you'll attract. And again, it says that social interactions are responsible for many more of the emotions, But then I get, and I put down here creativity. See, a lot of these discoveries and discussions about emotion in these academic journals don't see us as creating proactive human beings, more as these atoms and mechanisms that are bouncing off each other, sharing emotions, filtering, etc. I would like to know how emotion involves itself in creativity, and maybe we'll get an article here which helps to bring that forth. Here is Fisher and Manstead, 2008, page 464. I didn't have much to say about this one. The conclusion, and again, I would recommend you, if you don't have a lot of time, go right to the summaries and conclusions and get the gist of the article. Emotions are elicited and evolve in social context, and they help us to deal with the challenges posed by our social environment. We have distinguished two general social functions of emotion: affiliation, which entails the promotion of interpersonal intergroup relationships on one hand, and social distancing, which entails separation from an even control or power over others. So again, this kind of reinforces what the other article was saying. The other one had affiliation, attachment, and what was it, aggressiveness or something like that? I can't remember what it is. Oh, assertion. So it's very similar. Assertion is very consonant with social distancing to a certain extent. And affiliation, well, says the same exact word up there. Basically coming close, getting someone away. And again, that comes to an evolutionary understanding of someone might be beneficial to me either in a social way, an emotional way, from affection or something like that, or I might see that person as a threat and I want them far away. So yeah, to me, it's a little bit obvious that we would have those kind of triggers. They're basic survival. They're basic to our existence. So now this is the article that I had us work on in our discussion board discussion. And basically, let me see if I go down here. I'll just read it. Why do we feel happier when receiving a gift certificate from a brother who has never given us a gift than when receiving one from a mother who always gives us gifts? Burscheid and her colleagues would say that the unexpected gift from the brother is more of a surprise. It disrupts interpersonal routines more. Thus, it is associated with greater arousal. This arousal, combined with the interpretation that it is due to a good thing that facilitates one's goals, will likely produce greater happiness. I would encourage all of you to use that insight. The fact is, positive surprise is a great way, an easy way to intervene with your emotional programming. Trying things on your own that challenge you in a non-threatening way, like if you're afraid of driving or something like that. I don't know what it is. And then you end up going in a boat that is one of these, like we did in New Zealand, these crazy boats that come close to rocks and do this and that, where you're finding kind of messing around and exploring with ways to get at the underlying emotional substructure of that in a way that surprises, in a way that kind of plays with it. Doesn't trigger your event, but it still has a relationship to the root of your fear or your joy. So surprise, what I found here is that surprise is a great way to disrupt emotional programming. Both you encouraging yourself to do new things and you also doing new things or surprising, pleasant things. Random acts of kindness, right? What was the other thing? And senseless acts of beauty, that sort of thing. It's not just a New Age slogan. I think actually it's supported by this research. So that really does it for today. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to getting your responses back, both on the discussion board and in the answer to the question of the week. Until next week, this is Dr. Zeus signing out.